This call is now being recorded.
What's up, everybody? My name is Emmy Susani, and welcome back to Chats with the Freak. Today I have Dan Kaincaid, and I'm very glad that I pronounced his name correctly. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, and yourself?
It's going good. It's going good. So you just released this new lyric video for your song "Living in Circles," which is off your new album. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's off my new album called Persona Non Grata. It's my first solo album, or first my debut album as a solo artist. It was produced by Christian Eigner of Depeche Mode, and Nico Stossel also was a producer on that. It was produced and arranged by the two of them and mixed by Nico. It's basically, and I wrote all the songs and they produced and arranged them. It's basically like a look at just life and love, loss, basically facing your own demons, trying to rise above them. And living in circles is falling into that kind of scene is basically about trying not to replay patterns in your life over and over again, trying to make a change and make things better for yourself.
That's awesome. Yeah, I listened to it and had a very, a modern style of rock and metal, like a mixture, and I really dug the track a lot, and the lyric video looked kind of cool, too.
Yeah, Jacob Glover actually did that. He did a great job on that. And then
That's
all the
awesome.
artwork.
So what does persona non grata mean, exactly?
It means basically an unwelcome, unwanted, or unacceptable person.
Okay,
and
cool.
Sometimes in diplomatic, if you're considered not persona non grata in a country, you're not allowed in. But I took the personal meaning of it.
Yeah, that's cool. I've kind of heard the expression a couple times, but I wasn't really sure exactly what it meant.
Yeah, no, I like the idea because it's just, I think that we all at one point in life feel that way, feel unwanted or unacceptable, by others. And the cool thing about that is, if you become comfortable with that, you can not seek the approval of others. So it was just kind of a cool little concept to play with.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really deep. So I know that the album's out, correct?
Yeah, it came out on Halloween, actually.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had that right. What's your favorite song to play off the album?
I think I really, really like Believe and Answer Me. Answer Me is probably one of my favorites, or my top favorite.
That's awesome. That's cool. So you mentioned that this is your debut solo album. What other bands have you been in, man?
I was in a band called 6 Days Till Sunday. I was in a band called Superno for a while, and also in another band called Spit Out Star. I also played with Eric Griffin from the Murder Dolls. I played with him in a band called Cynical. We had a good time. We did some touring together.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So how would you say this album differs sound-wise from all the other bands that you've been a part of?
This one is a little bit more just rock and roll. The other ones were more metal. I think I lean more towards the rock vibe this time, and it's a little more. I think you can hear my influences in this one a lot more. Like I love Bowie and Prince as well as metal, and I think you can kind of hear that mixture of influences in this album.
That's actually kind of crazy that you say that, because when I was listening to Living in Circles, I was trying to figure out that it had, it didn't sound exactly like anything, but there was something that I was, picking up, and you saying that David Bowie, I could kind of hear that now that you mentioned that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Bowie. He's definitely one of my idols for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah. My mom was a huge, fanatic of him, so growing up, his music was always kind of around me, but I got really heavy into him, about 2 years ago and just started, obsessively listening to his albums over and over, and I kind of feel dumb that it took me that long to listen to his stuff.
No, I mean he's just awesome. I mean, what I like about him is he was just fearless. He was himself. Even he was able to, transform himself to one character, from one character to another, but still have his own identity within that character. He was just like displaying different parts of himself, and I love that about him. And I also love that he was able to, jump through genres seamlessly and still keep the fan base he had, and be able to also, bring in new fans. It's kind of an impressive feat.
Yeah, that was definitely, because some artists, when they change genres, and even the slightest, and he like drastically changed genres from album to album, and he kept his fan base. Like, I've never seen an artist be able to do that.
No, me neither. And that's one of the things that I respect so much about him, is he could change his look, his sound, and he never lost people. He just gained more.
Yeah, that's wild. I remember what actually got me really listening to his album is his main photographer was a guy by the name of Mick Rock, and there was a Netflix documentary on Mick that I was watching, because a lot of, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a band photographer, so I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And just kind of watching that, and I remember there was a scene in it where Mick was saying that David hired him because he wanted to have a personal photographer, so people wanted to know who this guy was. Because, if he has a personal photographer, he must be somebody. And I was like, oh my God, that's wild.
That's awesome.
I think it's called Scott or something along the lines of that. I know it's still on Netflix. It's so interesting to listen to him talking about Bowie. Like, oh my God.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's definitely a good watch. Like, I probably binge watched that like 5 or 6 times. Like, it's insane. It is totally freaking insane.
No, that's awesome.
So I was reading a little bit about you. You were born in Boston, but you went to LA to pursue your career in music. How would you say that the music scene differs from the East Coast to the West? Because I just made my first trip to LA back in September it was. And I felt like the entire scene was totally, like, it was a total different vibe out there. And I kind of wanted to just get your perspective on that.
Yeah. I mean, Boston was pretty much all the rock clubs in Boston were dying around the time that I came out here. There wasn't a whole lot of rock going on. There was, everything was becoming a dance club, or, basically, a lot of dance clubs were opening where rock clubs used to be, and we were, running out of places to play. And I think, like, we always did well at our shows, but we were, there were just only a couple of rock clubs left for us to play at. So Boston wasn't really a great place at that time to be a rock band. When I moved to LA, I mean, the rock scene was just hopping. It was like it was all about the rock and roll out here. There were so many different clubs you could play, places you could go and hang out. It started to change a bit now. I do see a lot of rock clubs here in Los Angeles now kind of closing down and, becoming either dance clubs or, hip hop clubs, or we lost, the House of Blues, which stunk because I guess they're going to put up a hotel where that used to be. But
yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's people that are hotel companies that are trying to buy up like the whiskey and all that, like, basically the rock club row there. But I think they've been able to basically get around that I think they declared the whiskey like a landmark, so I don't think it can be sold and built on, but I hope not, because I don't want to see hotels where all these, iconic rock clubs, are.
Yeah, for sure. I that was where I was at when I came out in September, was at the Whiskey A Go Go. I was photographing Steel Panther's album release out there.
Oh, cool. They're hilarious.
Oh my God, I love those guys so much. Oh God, I'm seeing them again Friday in Indiana, if I can talk.
Yeah, no, I
They're
remember them when
very
they were at the Viper Room starting out. When they were
middle school.
middle school, yeah, when they were middle school, yeah, and then I remember they moved over to the Key Club, yeah, and yeah, no, they've done really well for themselves. I think it's funny that they're putting out original music now. Their original stuff is hilarious.
Yeah, it really is. They're a very funny band, and they're very savvy businessmen as well, which is something that I can
Oh
really
yeah,
appreciate.
no, and talented musicians too, very talented.
Oh yeah, and I think that's the one thing that a lot of people overlook with them. And I say this
Yeah,
all the time because I photograph them a lot and I see them a lot. It's I feel like they're always touring too, which is great, but they're so underrated when it comes to musicians because I feel like people
oh
mark them
yeah,
off as a comedy band, and it's like no, like Satchel, aka Russ Parrish, was in a
yeah,
band with
yeah,
Rob
with
Halford. Like
one,
he's not.
yeah. Yeah, and I know that he and Paul Gilbert used to hang out and shred together all the time too. And to keep up with Paul Gilbert, you got to be pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, for real though, for real. A lot of people just like write them off as kind of this parody band, and it's just like they're not though.
Yeah, no, I used to be a little guitar shredder. So yeah, I'm familiar with very familiar with like Russ and all the shredders. But yeah, he's a
Yeah,
great
they're
guitar player. He was awesome in one. I actually
yeah
saw
for
them live
sure.
in Boston.
Oh, really? That's awesome. What was that like?
Oh, that was awesome. They played a club called Axis along back a while back, and that was, I mean, Rob Halford's voice is just insane. You know, his
Oh
voice
yeah.
shakes a room. Yeah.
Even now, like I photographed them over in Cincinnati, Ohio last year, and oh my God, that dude's like I think he's 70 now, and he just it doesn't matter. Like he just comes out and just kills it.
Oh no, that new album Firepower sounds like Priest of Old. It's awesome, and he just sings. His singing is insane.
Yeah, it's so he's so oh my God. I can't even say that he's underrated, but I feel like he is to a degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, I get what you're saying, but yeah, no,
Yeah, like
his
people
voice
talk
and
about like Brian Johnson and
mhm.
Robert Plant, stuff like that, which I'm not taking anything away from those guys because they're all amazing in their own right. But I feel like
Oh
Rob
yeah.
Halford needs to be in that conversation as well because and they always kind
Oh,
of like leave
absolutely.
him out of it.
I mean, he's the epitome of metal singer, I think. You know,
Yeah, for sure. Like
he
he
kind of
that Judas
he
Priest was
sets
the
the
band.
bar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he really did. Priest was the band that like got me like into metal to begin with. I was like 11. I was when I think I was 11 or 12 when the Nostradamus album came out. My brother was playing it, and I like was like, "What the hell is this?" And then it just was like a
Yeah.
binge after that.
Oh yeah. No, Priest is amazing. And then Iron Maiden's
Absolutely.
another one. Iron Maiden's another one that every time I hear them, I want to go pick up my guitar and play.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's just like those bands are like it's insane, and like I feel like Maiden's another one of those like their stage production, especially on that last tour that they just did. Like they're still
Oh yeah.
killing it even now.
Oh yeah. No, they're again metal icons. They're amazing.
Totally, totally incredible. So kind of going back a little bit, what made you want to pursue music? Was that just something you've always wanted to do, or was there kind of something that like sparked it?
I mean, when I was growing up, music was always a part of my life. Basically, you'd find me, you know, with my radio and my headphones, just listening to music. And I think when I was pretty young, probably about like maybe 10 or so, my dad had a classical guitar laying around, and I just picked it up and I just started picking out, you know, melodies of my favorite songs, like on one string. And my parents, I think they heard that, you know, I had a bit of an ear for music and got me a guitar teacher. And ever since then, I've been, you know, doing music at least like 8 hours a day. You know, I'd be playing in my room 8 hours a day and just became obsessed with music and, you know, the guitar. I wanted to be like, you know, the greatest guitar player in the world when I was, you know, when I was younger.
be the
But
ultimate shredder like we were talking about
yeah,
earlier.
no, absolutely. No, and yeah, I was definitely into Malmsteen and, into Racer X and Paul Gilbert. And yeah, I definitely wanted to be the ultimate shredder. And then basically I kind of switched focus to I wanted to write the best songs, instead of being the fastest guitar player. I decided that writing really good songs that connect with people was what was more important to me. So
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really cool. So, would you say that moving obviously from Boston to LA helped your songwriting at all?
oh yeah, definitely. When I got to LA, I kind of had this feeling of like, I didn't I didn't want to be, derivative of anybody anymore. Like I wanted to really find my own voice. Figured if I was going to move away from my family and friends and all that I should really, put everything I had into finding who I was and putting that on display. So it definitely made me search to find, what my sound was.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that moving into a different culture can definitely like send a shockwave through you and just be like super inspiring.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely was because LA is completely different than Boston, and then also just the scene at the time, and then all of a sudden you're seeing, like your favorite musicians hanging out in the club with you. It's definitely a culture shock for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that like I couldn't, and it's not even just when I went to LA, but like when I'm out like doing like the different photos with different bands and stuff, it'll just be like I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh shit, like whoever's in the freaking corner just chilling out drinking a beer. Like, and it's still
Yeah.
like it always gets to that, like usually it's pretty cool, but then there's always that one that fucking humbles you and you're like, oh shit.
Oh yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
I had that moment at I was covering a Mudhoney show up in Millvale, PA, and Kim
Uh-huh.
Thale of Soundgarden randomly showed up and he's like hanging out in the corner and I was like, just when I thought I couldn't get starstruck anymore.
Oh yeah, no, and it's funny because it's always the ones that sometimes until you run into them, you'd never know you'd be starstruck by them. Sometimes it's like really random people that I get starstruck by, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I never, like, it was one of those people that I've always been a really huge Soundgarden fan and, like, a big fan of, like, the 90s Seattle grunge scene. But, like,
Oh
I
yeah.
was just like, oh shit, there's Tim Thale. And, like, I never thought that, like, it was just never in my mind that he would randomly pop up at a show. And I'd be like, I was more starstruck over that than I was when I met Paul Stanley. Like, it was
Yeah.
wild.
No, it's definitely wild. Yeah, I met Gene Simmons just randomly out at a club one night. He's a funny guy.
I've not met him yet, but I've heard that he's very funny. I've heard that there's the stories about him that you hear from people that haven't met him, like, oh, my friend met him and this happened. But everybody that I've
Yeah.
talked to that's actually met him is like, oh, he's so nice and he's so funny.
Yeah, no, he was hilarious. I said to him, I said, Mr. Simmons, thank you for all the years of, great rock and roll, and he looked at me and he's like, well, it's not like you can really write a song like, Let's Jazz All Night, so we can write a choice. Yeah. So,
That sounds
he'll
like a
leave you,
very Gene comment.
yeah, no, it's funny. So he'll leave you with a moment for sure.
Oh my god, that's incredible. So through everything, obviously, it doesn't matter how much you love something or whatever. Everybody needs an escape from whatever they're doing, whether it's music, their day job, whatever that might be. What's your escape when you just need to turn the music off for a second?
Usually I'll end up playing one of my Star Wars games on my PS4.
I can
going
relate.
and going and battling some people with lightsabers is always a nice escape.
I love Star Wars. That definitely is one of my, like, I'm not that big of a video gamer, but I love Star Wars, so I can relate to that in some way.
Oh yeah, no, I love Star Wars absolutely.
So
Understood.
we're coming to the end of 2019. What does 2020 do you think holds for you?
Basically, I want to do some, I have the lyric video right now, but I want to do some live action, videos, and I want to do some showcases in Los Angeles. I don't want to go out and just kind of play every club. I've done that a lot in the past, and it kind of ends up costing you money in the end and not really gaining you many fans or support. So I'd like to set up a few shows in LA at maybe the beginning of 2020 where, I set up the night and bring in the bands that I think would fit and just really try to make it an event for people to come and have a good time at, because it's expensive to go to the clubs, so if they're going to spend money to come out and see me, I want them to see something great. So I'll start the year off with that, and then from there, just see how it goes. I'd love to take the show on the road, if given the opportunity. So I'm just going to start off with videos and showcases, and then hopefully take it further, take it out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I totally agree because a lot of people, like, I don't want to say disregard the fact that shows cost money, but they do to a degree. I don't feel like everybody knows what all goes into it. And it's like, oh, well, why
Yeah,
aren't you touring this? And it's like, because it costs money and I want to be smart about it. So I totally get that.
no, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Well, thank you for taking time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate that very much.
And everybody, make sure you check out Dan's video for Living in Circles and check out his new album. I'm sure it's the bomb. I will be checking it out soon. If it's anything like Living in Circles, I'm sure I'm going to love it. Thanks for listening in on another episode of Chats with the Freak. I hope to catch you next Freaky Friday.